I tried without success to find one of our resident Scottish people, but natives, but they're somewhere else. And so we are very fortunate. Our beloved friend, the undauntable actress Betty Lloyd Robinson, stepped forward and said, I played a part in Brigadoon, and I had to learn to talk that way. And she said, I'll do it. And so the show will go on, and I give you Betty Lloyd Robinson. And after she reads in the special accent and interprets it for you in English so we know finally what it means, we can do the first verse and chorus together.
Singing.
Singing.
Well, I'm going to try my best. It's Auld Lang Syne, lyrics by Robert Burns, 1788. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and Auld Lang Syne? For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll take a coup of kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne. We too have run about the braes and put the goings fine, and we've wandered many a weary fit since Auld Lang Syne. We have paid it in the burn, frae morning soon to dine, but seas between us bray have roared in Auld Lang Syne. And there's a hand, my trusty fair, and gives a hand on thine, and we'll take a right wid willy rot for Auld Lang Syne. And surely we'll be your pint stop, and surely I'll be mine, and we'll take a coup of kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne. Y'all know what that means? Here, this is the English translation. Should old acquaintance be forgotten and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgotten for days of long ago? For old long ago, my dear, for old long ago, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old long ago. We too have run about the hillsides and pulled the daisies fine, and we've wandered many a weary foot for old lang ago. We too shall wade in the stream from noon until dinner time, and seas between us broad have roared since old long ago. And there's a hand, my trusty friend, and give us a hand of yours, and we will take a goodwill draught for Auld Lang Syne. And surely you'll pay for my pint, and surely I'll pay for mine. And we'll take a cup of kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne. Let's sing it. Ready? I know you know this. Here we go. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and Auld Lang Syne? For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll drink a cup of kindness for Auld Lang Syne. Happy New Year!
So, and now we have a meditation by Arlene Schubert.
Good morning. I have something to confess. I really did prepare for this. and I picked up the wrong sheets. And my excuse is that I've just had knee surgery and I've had to be in bed or on my couch for 2 weeks. So here goes. This is winging it. This is one of my favorite types of meditation. It includes relaxation, and it also includes our imagination. It includes our imagination of colors. So I'd like you to relax, close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. Just take a moment to breathe. Follow your breath as we breathe in, breathe out. Even notice that the breath that we breathed in this morning is cool and fresh. And as we breathe out, it is warmer, warmed by our soul and our heart. So I'd like you to imagine the color red, the beautiful bright red of a red lipstick worn by a beautiful woman. Anything else that your imagination brings to mind with the color red. Red brings the power and strength of the red energies that bring courage and motivation. I am grounded and have love of my own life in the color red. Now imagine the color orange. The color orange promotes happiness, confidence, and positive emotion. The orange of the setting of our sun down below the mountains. The orange of an orange. Imagine the color orange. Imagine the color yellow. Color yellow provides us knowledge, clarity, and self-esteem. The yellow of a brilliant, shining sun. The yellow of a buttercup. The yellow of a lemon. Imagine the color yellow. Imagine the color green. Green creates balance, love, and self-control. The green of a beautiful carpet of grass. Imagine the color green. Imagine the color blue. Blue encourages leadership, inner truth, and understanding. The blue of our sky when it is clear. The blue of morning glories. Imagine the tranquil colors of blue. Now imagine the color indigo. Indigo enables intuition, empathy, and understanding. Imagine the color indigo, the natural dye used by the Mexicans that make our beautiful rugs. Imagine the deep, dark color indigo. And finally, imagine the color violet. Violet supports peace, creativity, and inspiration. Imagine the violet, but the small little flowers that pop up from growing lavender. Imagine the purple violet. And now, just for a moment, relax and let the colors, whichever ones, float through your imagination. And as you wish, you can come back to all the colors around us here. Open your eyes. And I thank you very much.
Today's speaker is Mark Sconce, contributing editor of Ojo del Lago. His monthly column, The Poet's Niche, is scintillating with humor. He is widely praised for his delivery of poetry, his stage presence, and unfettered passion for the beauty of words. First, by way of introduction, however, I'm going to interject this little story about Mark. Two of the world's greatest poets, Mark Sconce and Will Shakespeare, were swilling in the Mermaid Tavern when the bartender proposed a contest to determine which was the better rhymester. They were to use the word Timbuktu as an end rhyme word in a line of poetry. They drew straws to see who would start off. Shakespeare won the draw and went first. I traveled o'er the far and distant lands, observed the ever soft and shifting sands. A foreign vessel loomed into my view, its destination, Timbuktu. Well, now it was Sconce's turn, but how could he ever begin to rival that? The mermaid swillers held their breath as Mark let loose in the stentorian style for which he's so famous. Tim and I a-hiking went. We spied 3 maidens in a tent. They were 3, and we were 2. I bucked 1, and Tim bucked 2. Now you be the judge. So I'd like to introduce today's speaker, author of the prize-winning Dancing Girls of Ajijic, Mark Sconce. You didn't mind too much, did you, dear?
Are we on? I think Willie would have won that competition no matter what. I defer to William Shakespeare. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for attending this bright cheerful morning. Thought it was overcast for a while. Thank you, Jim Spivey, for your energy and leadership of this Open Circle enterprise. Terrific. Thank you, Margaret. Yes. Well spoken, and thank you, Margaret Van Every, for being such a charming host. Thanks to my wife, Lel, for indulging me in this excellent adventure. I'm glad to see that you're enjoying it too. Finally, thank you, Janice Kimball, for your spirited rendition of the mission statement. Speaking of which, for some time now, I have thought that our mission statement has within it the potential for conveying more meaning than in its current form. For example, what would it sound like as a poem? Friends and would-be friends foregather in LCS each Sunday morn, all here to seek and find together a higher self, a self reborn. We'll foster greater harmony, we'll elevate the mind, we'll kindle kindness everywhere and reach for the sublime. A place to heal, a place to grow beneath our leafy dome, a place to question what we know so far away from home. Now, Open Circle can't endorse or even recommend philosophies presented here, albeit by a friend. Okay, anyone have a birthday today? A birthday yesterday? A birthday tomorrow? Any birthdays he put out? Okay, good. Happy birthday. Mine is just around the corner. So I've penned a little verse. And so this is for you and me. A little verse entitled, Late Night Thoughts About Birthdays When Sleep Eluded Me. Like markers down the road of life, our birthdays come and go. But what they really signify, I guess I'll never know. The one side claims, we shouldn't hope that this becomes a trend, that birthdays merely indicate we're closer to the end. The other side is sentimental, and they make this point. Birthdays mark another year of life we could anoint, another year of life on earth, another year with friends, another opportunity to try to make amends. Okay, I've gotten that off my chest. Let's move to the main menu. A potpourri of poetry. Yes, a grab bag of a few favorites, a few new discoveries, and most of all, the poetry that I was unable to deploy in my monthly columns, casualties along the route, because of the draconian 600-word limit imposed by our drill sergeant, editor-in-chief of wow, Alex, you're here this morning. I didn't know you'd be here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Alex Grattan, the editor-in-chief of El Ojo del Lago.
You'll never work in this town again.
Nevertheless, Alex, we are very happy to learn that the historical novel he wrote over 15 years ago has been revised, re-edited, republished. The Dark Side of the Dream tells the story of the struggles of Mexican Americans north of the border. We hope it soon becomes a full-length movie.
Thank you.
Okay, first, a statement about where I stand. A student of poetry, I believe with all my heart that poetry is the highest branch of literature and is capable of delving deep into the soul and expressing much about life that prose simply cannot. I've tried to select this morning's poems with an eye to illustrating that truth, that poetry can take us to another realm of understanding and appreciation. I also believe that rhyme and meter are important features that add melodic spice and welcome rhythm as over and against the all too often dull landscape of free verse. My first offering is my favorite poet, Russia's most famous bard, Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin, 1799 to 1837. Yes, only 37 years old when he died. Died young in a pistol duel over a beautiful woman, his flirtatious wife, Natalia. And this duel that ended Pushkin's life was prefigured approximately 10 years earlier in Pushkin's best-known work, Eugene Onegin, a novel in verse. There, a young poet, Vladimir Lenski, dies in a pistol duel over a beautiful woman, his own flirtatious fiancée, Olga. The killer is Lenski's erstwhile friend, Eugene Onegin, a St. Petersburg playboy who makes advances on Olga. The poet Lenski demands satisfaction. The duel proceeds. Onegin, the superior duelist, kills his once good friend. At this point, Pushkin himself steps in to ask the reader a few questions. And what would be your own reaction if with your pistol you'd struck down a youthful friend for some infraction, a bold reply, too blunt a frown, some bagatelle when you'd been drinking? Or what if he himself, not thinking, had called you out in fiery cry? Well, tell me, what would you, inside, be thinking of, or merely feeling, were your good friend before you now, stretched out with death upon his brow, his blood by slow degrees congealing to death, and still to make reply to your repeated desperate cry? He lay quite still and past all feeling. His languid brow looked strange at rest. The steaming blood poured forth, revealing the gaping wound beneath his breast. One moment back, a breath's duration, this heart still throbbed with inspiration. Its hatreds, hopes, and loves still beat. Its blood ran hot with life's own heat. But now, as in a house deserted, inside it all is hushed and stark, gone silent and forever dark. The window boards have been inserted, the panes chalked white. The owners fled, but where, God knows, all trace is dead. You mourn the poet, friends, and rightly, scarce out of infant clothes and killed. Those joyous hopes that bloomed so brightly, now doomed to wither unfulfilled. Where now the ardent agitation, the fine and noble aspiration of youthful feeling, youthful thought, exalted, tender, boldly wrought? And where are stormy love's desires, the thirst for knowledge, worth, and fame, the dread of vice, the fear of shame? And where are you, poetic fires, you cherished dreams of sacred worth and pledge of life beyond this earth? Such smooth translations, hailed by both poets and bilingual Russians, owe their authenticity to years of arduous study and tedious tweaking from my good friend, Professor Emeritus James E. Phelan, University of Tennessee, Knoxville. I thank him for opening a window into the mind of this Russian genius, and I thank Jim for permitting me to use his translations this morning. Now here's a lyric which describes how Pushkin viewed his own death. You can follow along on the back of the page we handed you coming in. Yaponu chudnoe magnadenia. Periodala noe yavila street. Kapibalo noe lidenia. Kapgini chistai crossed it up. Wait a minute, this is in Russian. This was supposed to be in English. I'm going to talk to my secretary. When down the bustling streets I pass, or in a crowded church I stray, or share with frenzied youth a glass, the same old thoughts assert their sway. The years, I think, are rushing by, and all the current merry band will one day in the graveyard lie, and time for some is near at hand. When on some lonely oak I gaze, I muse on how that ancient wood will long outlast my sorry days, as long before my time it stood. And when I caress some youngster's face, within my mind I say, farewell. I yield to you this precious space, my time to fade, yours to swell. I contemplate each passing year, each passing day with bated breath, and wonder as they disappear, which date will mark my coming death. And where does fate intend my end? At sea? Abroad? Where battle reigns? Or will some nearby valley lend a plot to hold my mute remains? Though senseless flesh will hardly care precisely where it goes to rot, my final sleep I'd like to share with some once well-beloved spot. And let young life in vigor play before that portal tomb of mine, and let cold nature there, I pray, in everlasting beauty shine. My next favorite poet is the great Irishman, William Butler Yeats. For much of the 30s, he was considered the world's best poet. His black and white photo appeared on the cover of Time magazine. Imagine a poet appearing on the cover of Time magazine today. Well, his most famous poem is The Lake Isle of Innisfree, referring to a small lake in County Sligo where he grew up. But now he's standing on the gray pavement of the raucous, dirty city of London, longing to be back in rural Ireland, a pretty common poetic theme. YouTube features Yeats himself reciting this popular poem late in life. The recording, punctuated by static, sounded something like this. I will rise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honeybee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall find some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from vales of the morning to where the cricket sings. There midnight's all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of the linnet's wing. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore, while I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's gray. I hear it in the deep, hard score. If you're living in Mexico, you've probably heard by now the term magical realism. Fantastic phenomena, but in a normal setting. You see much of it in local art galleries. A Mexican writer described it best when he asks us to consider a Mexican gentleman quietly sitting in a wooden chair. Suddenly, the chair sprouts wings and flies away. The Mexican, steeped in magical realism, simply looks for another chair. When it comes to magical things, and mystical symbolism, Mexico has nothing on Ireland. What with its little people, the leprechauns, the fairy dust, and other such stuff gleaned from Irish myth and folklore. Butler Yeats wrote many poems about such enchantments, and this is my favorite. The Song of Wandering Angus. No, not the cow. The ancient Celtic god of youth, love, and poetic inspiration. I went out to the hazel wood because a fire was in my head, and cut and peeled a hazel wand and hooked a berry to a thread. And when white moths were on the wing and moth-like stars were flickering out, I dropped the berry in a stream and caught a little silver trout. When I had laid it on the floor, I went to blow the fire aflame when something rustled on the floor and someone called me by my name. It had become a glimmering girl with apple blossom in her hair, who called me by my name and ran and faded through the brightening air. Though I am old with wandering through hollow lands and hilly lands, I will find out where she has gone, and kiss her lips and take her hands, and walk among long dappled grass, and pluck till time and times are done the silver apples of the moon, the golden apples of the sun. Folks, if I could write just one poem like that before I passed, I would be celebrated. Fat chance, Sconce. Our next poet has composed more poems than all of the most celebrated poets combined. He's young and intense. He's old and wise. He's a chubby scribe. He's as thin as his reed. His name is Anonymous. And he dates back over 4,000 years as archaeologists and ethnologists and clever translators have discovered. Wherever they find him, we can be assured that Poet Anonymous was searching for the truth of love, life, and death. Here's one of the oldest ever, at over 4,000 years, the Bronze Age. Called the Seven, it refers to the 7 dark, menacing planetary demons. Yes, only 7 planets back then, folks. They are 7 in number, just 7. In the terrible depths, they are 7. Bow down in the sky, they are 7. In the terrible depths, the dark houses, they swell, they grow tall. They are neither female nor male. They are a silence heavy with sea storms. They bear off no women. Their loins are empty of children. They are strangers to pity, compassion far from them. They are deaf to men's prayers, entreaties can't reach them. They are horses that grow to great size that feed on the mountains. They are the enemies of our friends. They feed on the gods. They tear up the highways. They spread out over the road. They are the faces of evil. They are the faces of evil. They are 7. They are 7. They are 7 times 7. In the name of heaven, let them be torn from our sight. In the name of the earth, let them be torn from our sight. Bronze. This next anonymous poem, the Song of Songs, 600 BC, comes from the Hebrew. The sound of my lover coming over the hills. quickly, like a deer upon the mountains, now at my windows, walking by the walls, here at the lattices he calls. Come with me, my love, come away, for the long wet months are past. The rains have fed the earth and left it bright with blossoms, birds wing in the low sky, dove and songbird singing in the open air above, earth nourishing tree and vine, green fig and tender grape, green and tender fragrance. Come with me, my love, come away. And here's an ancient, anonymous poem that should be of special interest to my friend Janice Kimball. Where'd she go? Listen up. This is for you. Entitled Next Morning, about 700 BC, from India. Next morning, when a damn fool parrot, right before her parents, starts to mimic last night's cries of love, the girl leaps up, blushing, claps her hands to start the children dancing, jangle of her bracelets drowning out the parrot's call. Has much changed, ladies and gentlemen? Next, an homage to our host country. You all know what this is? You carry her with you most every day. Sor Juana Inez de la Cruz, 1651 to 1695. Sor, S-O-R, by the way, means sister, for she was a poet nun, a woman of genius, and a person of intellectual prowess, whose ideas and accomplishments were way ahead of her time. Mexico's first lady of poetry, and the continent's first brave feminist. Let's listen to her Baroque voice. Silly, you men. So very adept at wrongly faulting womankind, not seeing you're alone to blame for faults you plant in woman's mind. After you've won by urgent plea the right to tarnish her good name, you still expect her to behave? You that coaxed her into shame? You batter her resistance down and then, all righteousness, proclaim that feminine frivolity, not your persistence, is to blame. Presumptuous beyond belief, you'd have the woman you pursue be Thais when you're courting her, Lucretia when she falls to you. Whether you're favored or disdained, nothing can leave you satisfied. You whimper if you're turned away, you sneer if you've been gratified. With you, no woman can hope to score, whichever way she's bound to lose. Spurning you, she's ungrateful. Succumbing, you call her lewd. Still, whether it's torment or anger, and both ways you've yourselves to blame, God bless the woman who won't have you, no matter how loud you complain. It's your persistent entreaties that change her from timid to bold. Having made her thereby naughty, you would have her good as gold. So where does the greater guilt lie for a passion that should not be? With the man who pleads out of baseness, or the woman debased by his plea? Or which is more to be blamed, though both will have cause for chagrin? The woman who sins for money, or the man who pays money to sin? So why are all you men so stunned at the thought you're all guilty alike? Either like them for what you've made them, or make of them what you can like. Well, gentlemen, that should hold us for a while. Next, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, America's first internationally recognized poet, who, at his height, was able to command $3,000 per poem. When he died in 1882, he could count over $350,000 in the bank, a tidy sum in those stormy days following the Civil War. Here's a story about him I'll bet you've never heard. One day, he was taking a nap, but was suddenly awakened by screams from the next room. He rushed in to find his wife on fire. Fiery hot sealing wax, meant for the back of an envelope, had fallen on her dress. He did his best to put out the fire, but she died the next day. He himself was badly burned about the face, and that is why he stopped shaving and grew the great white beard we now associate with the great white poet. So before they fade into stardust, let's pay a visit to Henry and Hiawatha. From the brow of Hiawatha, gone was every trace of sorrow, as the fog from off the water, as the mist from off the meadow, with a smile of joy and triumph, with a look of exultation, as of one who in a vision sees what is to be but is not, stood and waited Hiawatha. A kind of heroic Aztec warrior, don't you think? Yeah. But here's a Longfellow poem you don't hear too often, The Wreck of the Hesperus. Remember how the skipper of the great schooner Hesperus set sail in the wintry seas with a very special passenger on board to keep him company, his daughter. Blue were her eyes as the fairy flax, her cheeks like the dawn of day, and her bosom white as the hawthorn buds that ope in the month of May. The skipper, he stood beside the helm, his pipe was in his mouth, as he watched how the veering flaw did blow, the smoke now west, now south. Well, a northeast gale blows up, and the Hesperus is suddenly in peril. The skipper lashes his daughter to a mast, but the little girl is very frightened. "Oh, father, I hear the sound of guns. Oh, say, what may it be?" "Some ship in distress that cannot live in such an angry sea." Oh, father, I see a gleaming light. Oh, say, what may it be?" But the father answered never a word. A frozen corpse was he. Lashed to the helm, all stiff and stark, with his face turned to the skies, the lantern gleamed through the gleaming snow on his fixed and glassy eyes. Then the maiden clasped her hands and prayed that saved she might be, and she thought of Christ who stilled the wave on the lake of Galilee. She struck where the white and fleecy waves looked soft as carded wool, but cruel rocks, they gored her side like the horns of an angry bull. At daybreak on the bleak sea beach, a fisherman stood aghast to see the form of a maiden fair lashed close to a drifting mast. The salt sea was frozen on her breast, the salt tears in her eyes, and he saw her hair like the brown seaweed on the billows fall and rise. Such was the wreck of the Hesperus in the midnight and the snow. Christ save us all from a death like this on the reef of Norman's woe. And now for my Canadian friends, Mr. Robert W. Service, 1874 to 1958, the Bard of the Yukon, the Canadian Kipling, who chronicled the Klondike Gold Rush with poems like this. Never will I forget it. There on the mountain face, ant-like, men with their burdens clinging in icy space, dogged, determined, and dauntless, cruel and callous and cold, cursing, blaspheming, reviling, and ever the battle cry, gold. And who can forget the cremation of Sam McGee? And there sat Sam, looking cool and calm in the heart of the furnace roar. And he wore a smile you could see a mile. And he said, "Please close that door. It's fine in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plumtree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm." Meanwhile, back in Vermont and New Hampshire, Robert Frost was taking measure of the countryside. Late in life, have we chosen the road less traveled? Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Hasn't it? And who could not be moved by this invitation? I'm going out to clean the pasture spring. I'll only stop to rake the leaves away and wait to watch the clear water I may. I shan't be gone long. You come too. I'm going out to fetch the little calf that's standing by the mother. It's too young. It totters when she licks it with her tongue. I shan't be gone long. You come too. And in line with the Mayan calendar prediction, I present Robert Frost's view of the end time. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. And then, for my lady friends, here's a little touch of romance from my two female favorites, Dorothy Parker and Edna St. Vincent Millay. First, Dorothy Parker, 1893 to 1967. Privately depressed and drinking injudiciously, she attempted suicide several times in midlife, but she always pulled back. Razors pain you, rivers are damp, acids stain you, and drugs cause a cramp. Guns aren't lawful, nooses give, gas smells awful, you might as well live. Her favorite poem, War Song, was a heartfelt message for her husband off to the war. Soldier in a curious land, all across a swaying sea, take her smile and lift her hand, have no guilt of me. Soldier, when were soldiers true? If she's kind and sweet and gay, use the wish I send to you, lie not lone till day. Only for the nights that were, soldier, and the dawns that came, when in sleep you turn to her, call her by my name. And here's the amazing Edna St. Vincent Millay, whose middle name derives from St. Vincent Hospital, where she was born in Rockport, Maine, 1892. Her family and friends called her Vincent. She hated Edna, but then who wouldn't? Oh, have I offended them? She was the first woman to receive the Pulitzer Prize for poetry. Here's why. What lips my lips have kissed, and where and why, I have forgotten. And what arms have lain under my head till morning. But the rain is full of ghosts tonight, that tap and sigh upon the glass and listen for reply. And in my heart there stirs a quiet pain for unremembered lads that not again will turn to me at midnight with a cry. Thus in the winter stands the lonely tree, nor knows what birds have vanished one by one, yet knows its boughs more silent than before. I cannot say what loves have come and gone, only know that summer sang in me a little while, that sings in me no more. Exactly why she titled this next poem in Spanish, Only Vincent Knows. Perhaps it's a memory of her Mexican love. Recuerdo. We were very tired. We were very merry. We had gone back and forth all night on the ferry. It was bare and bright and smelled like a stable, but we looked into a fire and leaned across a table. We lay on the hilltop underneath the moon, and the whistles kept blowing, and the dawn came soon. We were very tired. We were very merry. We had gone back and forth all night on the ferry. And you ate an apple, and I ate a pear, from a dozen of each we had bought somewhere. And the sky went wan, and the wind came cold, and the sun rose dripping a bucket full of gold. And we were very tired, and we were very merry. We had gone back and forth all night on the ferry. We hailed, "Good morrow, mother," to a shawl-covered head, and bought a morning paper which neither of us read. And she wept, "Oh, God bless you for the apples and the pears." And we gave her all our money but our subway fares. Pretty romantic, what? Finally, I offer my interpretation of this year's poem of the year, which I titled The Dancing Girls of Ajijic. O body swayed to music, O brightening glance, how can we know the dancer from the dance? William Butler Yeats posed that question many years ago. This morning, we may have an answer. The dancing girls of Ajijic. An Ajijic mother glances at her daughter sitting beside her and smiles approvingly. She looked to be of tender age, her full attention on the stage, her eyes transfixed by each plie, the Kirov troupe, the corps de ballet. Cinderella's foot slips into place, pink ribbons substitute for lace, so she can pirouette and leap on point her dancing dervish feet. The curtain falls, the crowd erupts, the little girl, in hand with Mama, walks silent home. Before she went to bed that night, she clenched her cross as in a trance and prayed beneath a lambent light to Xochipilli, god of dance, leaping, soaring, arabesque, striving to be statuesque, a butterfly emerging free, a dream of endless filigree. But other dreams are being dreamt by other girls in Ajijic, of other dances to attempt with native costumes, tried technique. Dreams, ballet folklorico, pride, Jalisco, Mexico. Whimsies of a southern belle, whirling like a carousel. Not just a sheer artistic whim, but whimsy nonetheless. A pre-Hispanic native hymn in vivid, multicolored dress. Dances of the Indio from every part of Mexico. Dances from the Yucatan, Oaxaca, and the Michoacan. Chiapas and Quintana Roo. Tabasco and Hidalgo, too. Her elegant and supple line, her blur of charm, quicksilver curve. She sparkles like a winter wine, the joy of life, the life of bird. Her flying skirts, black bouncing braids, submit to swirl and counter-swirl, or stately, graceful promenades in makeup meant for masquerades. And then we have the Latin dances, well known to girls of Ajijic, forever sparking fresh romances, forever dancing cheek to cheek. The samba, rumba, ay caramba, the mambo, tango, light fandango, do re mi fa, cha 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 cha, the salsa, merengue, y paso doble. Finally, there's the restaurant Mannix, a home to expats and Hispanics who come to hear the music play and gladly dance the night away. And there one night in Ajijic, two dancers charmed my soul. Two little girls across the street, two sisters I was told. The one was 8, the other 10. I saw them there that night, across from Mannix restaurant, a vision in the light. While we all danced the night away, the music sounded fair. And on their roof across the way, those sisters danced on air. The rhythm and the rhyme of it, the tempo and the time of it, the lovely charm and chime of it, the dancing girls of Ajijic, a joy to move my weary soul. Oh, body swayed to music, oh, brightening glance, now we know the dancer from the dead.
But do you know what happens when you combine Robert Frost and James Bond? The road not shaken but stirred. That's a very special kind of Mark Sconce. Anyway, thank you so much, Mark. We really enjoyed that. We hope to see you back next week. The presenter is John Milton, though not Paradise Lost. He says Paradise Found here. But his topic is, can science and religion be reconciled? So that's it for this morning. Remember to turn your cell phones back on, pick up your coffee cups, and stack your chairs. We thank you for coming and hope to see you next Sunday.